All right, everybody, here we are. It's Wednesday, day after St. Patrick's Day. I don't know, we're going to do Austria here in a second, and along with Austria, we may begin Russia. Here, this is AP World Modern, looking at nationalism across the world here in the middle of the coronavirus crisis. On that note, my students, my office hours are going to begin 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. starting March 30th. You know, for you guys, spring break starts tomorrow. We are still working, so I will be available during this time. I can add more if need be. During that time, if you could email me, I will give you the Google Classroom login code. This will prevent hijackers from jumping in and saying weird things. Also, if you're using this to help your students or yourself, that's fine. But if you don't like it, I know that we're all, kind of in, the isolation. But be nice, be positive. Really, don't track me down on my school email to say something mean-spirited, because number one, I don't care. And it makes you look like a buffoon. So if you're a hater or a troll, go find another target, because nobody here cares, and or do something positive for humanity. But if you really get off on making fun of me, then so be it. I'm a high school teacher. It happens all the time. So, all right, now enough of that stuff. Here we go, nationalism in Austria. And we talked about the Jedi or Sith, that is Otto von Bismarck, and we talked about Count Camille Cavour, who is kind of like Bismarck's, JV, nationalist. And now we're going to talk about nationalism in Austria. And man, could it be more complicated and silly? I'm not really sure. Austria, beautiful country. I love the mountains. I love Salzburg. The hills are alive. The Von Trapps. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the gorgeous city of Vienna, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat there at the Innsbruck ski jump. I get it. But nationalism here at this period is so difficult. Nationalism was easy to unite the people in Italy and in Germany. All right, one small nation. However, many of the old world monarchical empires, like the Austrian-Habsburg Empire, like the Ottoman Empire, these two empires that border on each other, that are large and multicultural, nationalism isn't so good for them, because it means their empires are going to begin to fade as their conquered territories want independence. And so these empires, the Ottomans and Austrian-Habsburg, both rule large multi-ethnic peoples. Many ethnic groups begin to have their own nationalist movements. They want to become their own countries. And it caused these people to want to break free of their old world masters. And so by the year 1800, the Austrian-Habsburg Empire is the oldest ruling monarchy dynasty in Europe. And they have got their territory throughout, South Central Europe, much of Eastern Europe, from the Ukraine all the way to Poland, into what is today the Czech Republic and Slovakia, are part of this giant Austrian-Habsburg Empire. So it is large. It is multi-ethnic. It is multi-diverse. It is a cosmopolitan group of people from all over. And the largest part of this empire was the country of Hungary. Very significant, large part of this empire. And since the conclusion of the Congress of Vienna in 1815, all right, so you look at all these colored territories, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Dalmatia, Croatia, Slavonia, all right, on and around and around and around and around. And then you've got big old Hungary right here. Since the conclusion of the Congress of Vienna in 1815, Francis I and his Prime Minister, Clemens von Metternich, had worked really hard to reassert absolutism. throughout the empire. Anything that was written, any speech that contained the word constitution, right, was outlawed, was banned. While everyone around them were rapidly industrializing due to the Industrial Revolution, the Austrian-Habsburg Empire tried to stay traditional. This is what we always do, and I like some traditions, but man, sometimes you have to change. But the Habsburgs in Austria are going to stay strong. They limit the amount of industrialization inside their empire. They also, when this happens, it's kind of a domino effect as it begins to affect the morale of their workers, the discontent among their workers. They stifle the growth of large cities and towns. They want to keep the populations where they were. And some people begin to promote the ideas of Karl Marx and socialism. All right? Everyone is, contained and put into this area where you get exactly what you need based on your needs and your abilities. And part of the problem with Austria is that they're governing an empire of 50 million people, which is, quite a big, large population. However, the German-speaking Austrians, are going to be in the minority. Only 25% were German-speaking Austrians. And when you have this, when you have 75 to 80% of your empire having nationalist feelings, all right, it's about to get ugly. And in 1848, a few revolts start to break off. And they were quickly and brutally crushed. Remember what Metternich says, if there is a rebellion, you've got to stamp it out hard so we don't see anything like what happened in France. And so, since Austria controlled a large part of Eastern Europe, the stability of Europe was at stake. And when asked, Metternich and his emperor said, we don't have people, we have subjects. They will do what they are told. But then things begin to change here. After the Franco-Prussian War, when Austrian Habsburgs are defeated by France, Sardinia, the Piedmont, and Bismarck's Prussia, Emperor Francis I realizes, wait a minute, maybe we've been going about this the wrong way. I don't know if this is the very best idea. I just don't think so. So he realizes that in order to maintain his power, he's going to have to come up with some reforms. Reforms are going to be needed. And so he talks to his boy Metternich, and their idea is to create a constitution. They're going to set up a parliamentary legislature. However, right, this is just an illusion. It is just, a smokescreen or a distraction. Right? We're going to make one, but it's going to be dominated by the good old boy network. We are going to get our German-speaking Austrians in the parliament. That's going to represent everybody, but they are our guys. So the Austrian Constitution, in effect, really accomplishes not a single thing, except for upsetting a large part of their population, especially in Hungary.
Good morning to the folks that are in the building. Just so you know, and I think a message from the district is coming very soon. We are having to direct everybody to vacate the buildings and work from home at 2 o'clock today. So I'm just kind of letting you know this so that if you have things you want to wrap up, we are being directed to send everybody home by 2 o'clock today. So I just wanted you to know that as soon as possible.
Okay. Now you guys know that I'm going to speed this up because we've got to go home by 2 o'clock today, and we have a lot of things in which we need to do. Okay, so I'm going to speed this up. This This upsets many of the citizens of the empire, especially the Hungarians. And as a result of this, we're going to get something known as the Dual Monarchy. All right, here you go. Are you ready for this? Emperor Francis I is going to reach a compromise with the Hungarians by supporting Hungarian nationalism. In short, Hungary will become its own independent country. The Austrian-Habsburg Empire will become known as the Dual Monarchy, where we have Emperor Francis I of the Austrian Habsburgs and King Francis of an independent Hungary. All right, this is how it works. So in 1867, Franz Joseph is Emperor of the Austrian Empire and also named the King of the independent country of Hungary. The two countries are going to share finances. They are going to share foreign affairs. They are going to have a combined defense, a military, but they would be separated in all other areas. The Hungarians are like, woo, Budapest, it's going to be awesome, woo, all right. Trying to think of the goulash, we're extremely happy. In effect, nothing really had changed except, well, that the Hungary is an independent country, but the same guy is still in charge. Now, while this is great for Hungary, the other countries are bitter. What about us? Most of the other minority groups, especially the Czechs, are angry at being left out. And so they call upon all other Slavic people of Russian descent to unify by claiming only through, all right, the solidarity, I'm going Lech Walesa on this, only through liberty, equality, and fraternal solidarity can the Slavic peoples of the world achieve, my cage a little bit rattled here, their great mission in the history of mankind. All right? Only through solidarity, liberty, equality, and fraternal solidarity can the Slavic peoples of the world fulfill their great mission in the history of mankind. Now, many minority groups, many minority nationalities thought that they deserved to be an independent state or part of the Russian Empire, where we're headed next, that they were descended from. And they depend a lot on Russia for their protection, which will come to play here in World War I. Also, while the greater German population in Austria stays loyal to Emperor Franz Joseph, there were some who were like, hey, Austria is cool and Austria is nice, but man, we really wouldn't mind being part of Bismarck's Germany. And so to end up here, with the Austrian nationalism, which is kind of funny, there are three big empires going on. We have Austria-Hungary on one hand. Above them we've got Germany. And to the north and the east we have Russia. All three have large numbers of ethnic Poles in their empires, plus a minimum of 2 other ethnic groups, all of whom had nationalistic tendencies. Each ethnic group was focused on its own local interest. It's just like Italy. They are focused on themselves, not as the part of the empire as a whole. It was these populations that are going to have a large effect on the world from 1867 through World War I. How are these empires going to survive? Nationalism is the very first spark that will eventually ignite the flame of World War I. And in World War I, regimes, governments, and empires are overthrown and destroyed. It's going to be a game changer, a major door hinge in world history. The toppling of governments due to nationalism will cause major problems on the planet and affect us again in World War II. So I'm going to go for a few minutes here and start Russia, and I will pick this up tomorrow as I got to clean up and get a few things done before we get out of here. All right, nationalism in Mother Russia. All right, by the year 1800, Russia's largest and most densely populated country in Europe, is much big, Mother Russia. In Russia, I'll stop using my accent so the YouTube haters don't freak out, is also blessed with a tremendous amount of natural resources. Going back to Peter the Great, the iron ore and the coal, and things they could do to make iron. So it's perfect for industrialization. It should be, it makes natural sense. But the sheer size of the country, running from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, all the way across Russia, over the Ural Mountains, the Siberian Plain, all the way to the Pacific Ocean. This thing is vast. And as a result, it gives Russia its global capacity and influence. Problem in Russia, it has always rejected modernization. It's the boyars. It didn't like the West. And they do not want to have any of this westernization. They like their old world style of government. Nobility, feudalism, monarchy. And some czars we know, like Peter and then later Catherine the Great, tried to change this, to bring westernization to Russia. But it's always the boyars, the Russian nobles, who manipulated the weak czars that keeps holding them back. Afraid that westernization and modernization would threaten the absolute rule or position, they don't allow this to happen. And so in the West, the Enlightenment and the French Revolution had influenced many other things. The age of revolution that influences even the Austrian Hapsburg is going to have no influence on the Russian czars. As a matter of fact, in 1800, Tsar Alexander I thought about making reforms. All right, this might be a good idea. But then Napoleon invades. And Napoleon's invasion changes his mind. He clings more tightly to power. But some military officers are going to remember what Napoleon did. And at the Congress of Vienna, Tsar Alexander I, all right, here again is Mother Russia. He's a much big country. He is big, all right. Here it is. As a result of Napoleon, Alexander I, at the Congress of Vienna, buys into Metternich's idea of suppressing these reforms. And he thought that he is going to eliminate any action that would threaten his rule or his monarchy. And then in 1825, he dies. And here's the effect of Napoleon. A group of his military officers who learned of ideas, of Western ideas, like the Enlightenment and industrialization while fighting Napoleon, lead in December 19th, what is known as the Decemberists Revolt, because it happened in December, demanding these democratic reforms. But Alexander's son, Nicholas I, like the good, absolutist czar he is, brutally puts down these rebellions. And he goes even further. I'm going to ban Western books. I'm going to ban Western ideas. And he goes and gets the intellectuals, teachers, professors, people like me, to throw them in jail because they're teaching their people not what to think, but instead how to think. And he unleashes his Nazgul, his secret police, to root out all people, to sniff them out from every rock and tree and shadow, to find people who are enemies of his regime. And Tsar Nicholas is going to build Russia on 3 pillars. And this is where we're going to stop with Tsar Nicholas today. Number 1, 3 pillars that he is going to use to reassert his absolutism. Number 1 is orthodoxy. Control the hearts and the minds of the people by building strong ties between the Russian Orthodox Church and his government, like his ancestor Peter did. Number 2, autocracy. He believed in absolute, unquestioned rule. He was in charge. He is like a smaller Peter, the absolutist, unquestioned leadership and power of my government. And number 3, love for what is Russian. Russian nationalism. You know, stacking dolls, borscht, vodka, you know, whatever it is, the Krotsky. Hey, all right, we're going to do some, you know, love what is Russian. Enjoy it, embrace it, because we are great people. And anybody who disagrees with him is eliminated. But where we're going to pick up tomorrow is Nicholas saw there was a need to modernize and make some reforms so he could compete, not be like the West, but compete with the West. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. I'm out right now.